friends, you're watching The Seated Scribe, a channel where we discuss pens and writing, and I am Rudrashish Datta. For today's pen review, we have a pen that carries with it perhaps more literature than any other fountain pen in the modern age. The pen celebrates a writer, a novel, and the seas, and almost everything about the pen, from its name to its barrel to the shape of its clip, is modeled on Herman Melville's celebrated novel Moby Dick. And if some of you have guessed it correctly, the pen for today's review is Noodler's Ahab in the plum pearl color. The pen is interesting for a number of reasons, some of which are positive and some not. Let us now explore the pen to see what the pen offers in terms of the writing experience of the users and the money that it costs. So, without any further delay, let us go to the pen and examine it. Noodler's Ahab pens come in interesting looking sea themed boxes like these, and it's an unassuming cardboard box. Let me open it from this section to see what is there in it. So this is the pen. I'll be providing a close-up of this box and its images in this video later. Let us put it aside and now go to the pen. So there is no documentation of any nature in terms of maintenance leaflets. There is a plastic sleeve in which they have put in this pen. Now, so far as the first impression is concerned, this is an average sized pen, maybe slightly more on the thicker side. The finials on both the ends are rounded. The clip is more on the looser side. It's pretty loose, but it is functional nevertheless. It has this typical arch shape which some like and some don't, and viewed from the top, the clip is shaped like the top view of a sperm whale. That is what the company claims, and it indeed appears. This curve at these two ends, they indeed resemble the physical appearance of a sperm whale when seen from the top. Now this metal band has an inscription, Noodler's Ink. So this is the company that produced this pen. Noodler's is usually famous more for its bulletproof inks, but nevertheless they have forayed into the world of fountain pen making. And interestingly, this barrel has a slight step down and then a rounded end, which the company claims resembles, at least to some extent, the prosthetic leg of Captain Ahab in Moby Dick, the prosthetic leg being made of a whalebone. So this pen is an out and out sea themed pen. Now let me open it. It has a rotation clip which opens in slightly more than 2.5 rotations, and the gripping section too has the slight tapering step down to this end as in this section. This pen smells a queer, sweet smelling plastic, as I can get it immediately after unscrewing this cap. So this is Noodler's Ahab. The feed is ebonite. It's a steel nib. The nib width is fine, and the nib contains the inscription Noodler's, the name of the company. Incidentally, the feed and the nib section can be disassembled. In fact, many users tell that before a first use, this pen and the nib alignment needs some personalization suited to the user so as to bring out a perfect writing experience. So let me see how this section can be pulled out. Yes, with slight to and fro rotations, this section can be pulled out. Okay, so this pipe is fed directly into the ebonite feed, which contains a slit at this end. It's a single slit feed, and this is the nib. This is the nib. These pens are known for being flex pens. We'll see it while we write, and if you can see it, the thickness of this section is very much on the lower side, which perhaps lends this nib to a flexing tendency. So let us put this section back. Sorry. It is pushed, sealed and tightened. So yes, it's tightened. The feed and the tines are aligned, so we are ready to go. Now this is a very interesting looking piston converter. The inner transparent pipe is meant to draw in the ink and feed this section, this hollow section, giving this converter a huge ink capacity of around 2 milliliter. We'll see it when we fill in this pen with ink. And this is threaded into the inner section, and I find it greased. This greasy smell is something that puts a user off, some users off at least, and this smell usually stays for long. It lessens in intensity with time, but it stays for long. So let me now ink up this pen and do a writing sample. I'll now ink this pen up with Cherry's Fractal Blue. This section will be dipped into the ink pot, and we'll pull up the piston repeatedly to draw in the ink. So this is how it is done. This section is fed with ink from the inner hollow tube. Yes, it's almost full except for this small section, but it nevertheless, this will be enough for a writing sample. So let me use this pen on a 100 GSM sheet to see how the flex nib of the pen fares. It is a smooth, wet writer. The upstrokes are slightly thinner. With no pressure, we have minimum variation in nib width, but since this is a flex nib, let me see how the nib gives way to width under pressure. With moderate pressure, the nib yields to a flexing tendency that is more on the finer side. And interestingly, we will need a lot more pressure for the ink to railroad. In fact, it's not railroading, as it were. There's an issue with Noodler's Ahab, which I have found straight out of the box in my first writing experience, and that is this pen tends to leak or burp from this point to the tip of the nib, which makes it a very, very unpredictable writer. Let me see if I can focus it for you. This being a flex nib, a bit of a pressure here at this point will bring in the ink, as you can see, and this ink directly is transferred to paper. This is one of the reasons why many reviewers of Ahab have been put off by the unpredictable nature of these leaks or burps, and this leak usually calls for a continuous alignment and realignment of the tightness of the nib section and the feed section. And if you can see it, ink is already beginning to gather at this end. Yes, as you can see. So this is what makes Ahab a very, very unpredictable writer. It's a good pen, but at the same time, it is this aspect which calls for repeated calibrations of the nib feed mechanism. An alternative which many reviewers suggests, but which did not work for me, and that is to empty the entire main section of ink, keeping only this smaller section with ink. Even that, as you can see, is not working, since we are having a liberal dose of ink transferred to paper immediately, right? So I'm not sure as to how users will accept this fact straight out of the box. It may be an inexpensive pen, but subjecting users to this kind of an experience really calls into question the quality control issues of Noodler's Ahab. I understand that they have outsourced a lot of this to other countries, and they are not made in-house in America. But if this is an experience with a first time use of Noodler's Ahab, I would find or foresee many users stop using it as a daily workhorse. So this is an aspect of the pen which puts me off personally. Nevertheless, I'll be working on this pen to ensure that this does not happen. But ideally, a user of a fountain pen would expect a fountain pen to perform straight out of the box, irrespective of the fact that it is cheap. So that is Noodler's Ahab for you. It entirely depends on how you personally take these individual leaks. I understand that this is common to most users who are using Ahab for the first time, and I really don't know the reason why the company that assembles or manufactures this product still makes it leaky or burping with the slightest variation in writing pressure. So that is Noodler's Ahab for you. If you ask me personally whether I would be recommending this pen to a first time user, it's a loud and big no. There are other pens much more better at a fraction of the price of this, which performs excellently straight out of the box. So this is Noodler's Ahab for you. We'll be back with another pen and another review in a few days. Thank you for watching. Keep sharing and subscribing the Seated Scribe. Thank you.